Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by the University of Florida, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, Baptist Health, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Good afternoon from EverBank Stadium in Jacksonville. Brian Sexton along with Mike Dempsey. We're in the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center, and we welcome you to the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show here in Week 9. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Eagles and Jaguars come up at 4:05 Eastern Time. It was supposed to be like 8:15, but this game got flexed a few weeks ago, and that, as much as anything, tells you where the Jaguar season is right now. 2-6 in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field today, Mike, against an Eagles team that's had their bye. They're 5-2. And this is why this feels like such a huge challenge. The Eagles are playing good football right now, and I think at its most charitable, you would describe the Jaguars as playing inconsistent. There were moments that were good last week against the Packers. The offense coming down the field to tie the game with 2 minutes left to play, and then the defense giving up the big play to set up the game-winning field goal. So it is what it is, as they like to say. This is a Jacksonville team that has a huge challenge against an Eagles team today that's playing good football.
The Jags have dug themselves early holes almost all season long, and they did it again last week. They played, offensively played very well, and considering the attrition that they had throughout the course of the day, losing their top 3 receivers. Trevor Lawrence goes over 300 yards. He did lead them back from 10-point deficits a couple of times, and, the defense had its moments, but when they needed them the most, let them down. And I think, Brian, the biggest concern you've got is both lines of scrimmage here. The Jags are beat up a little bit on the offensive line. The interior of the defensive line hasn't played great all season long, and Philadelphia has some bruisers on both groups.
They do, and if I were to nail it down to one area in particular that I'm watching today, it's the Jaguars' ability to stop the running game, because Saquon Barkley is averaging 5.9 yards per rushing attempt, 6 yards per attempt. Of course, with the dual threat with Jalen Hurts back there, these guys look like the Baltimore Ravens all of a sudden, averaging 166 rushing yards per game. And the Jaguars are coming off a game that they didn't tackle very well and allowed the Packers and Josh Jacobs to run for 170 yards.
Right, and that's that aspect of it. Then you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and even with Dallas Goedert out, they've got a lot of weapons. Right?
Yeah, I was trying to focus.
We're trying to narrow it down to one area. There's no question the Jags are going to have issues.
Out for a walk this morning, and I had a gentleman stop me and say, all I want today is to be able to hope going into the fourth quarter. Well, the Jaguars gave fans that last week against the Green Bay Packers. We'll see if they can get that done today. But when you're 2-6, hope is what you're hoping for. Let's get to some of the top stories.
Sure.
We'll begin with Doug Pederson, who knows he has his hands full today, obviously, going into Philadelphia, where he once coached. And they face a strong Eagles team. They don't have all their players. They're going to have backups on the offensive line, in the secondary and wide receiver. He says he isn't fazed by the challenge, and neither is his team.
Next man up. I mean, honestly, it's easy as that. The games are still going to come. The league's still going to, continue on, and we're going to continue on. And we got to coach. It's why we develop guys in the off season, for opportunities like this, right? So whether it's a young player, a rookie, or a vet, or a practice squad elevation, we're going to continue to coach everybody and get them prepared for each week.
I think we've said multiple times, Mike, this has not been the toughest team this year, especially mentally tough. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, you had Trevor Lawrence talking about a fragile team that needed to stop being so fragile. A game like today, it'll make you tough.
Well, it'll make you tough or it'll expose you, one or the other, right? I think they showed toughness last week. They showed resiliency, which they haven't always done this year. It wasn't good enough to get the win, so there's no moral victories here. But if you want to see fight out of your team, the way they went down the stretch, playing a lot of 12 personnel, playing guys that, like Tim Jones has hardly played at wide receiver all year, things like that. I'm not that concerned about Parker Washington filling Christian Kirk's role. I think Parker's looked really good this year, and that's not a knock on Christian Kirk and what he means. This team better have Brian Thomas Jr. It looks like he's going to play today, but they can't replicate what he brings to this offense. And then let's find out, a full game of Cooper Hodges here without Ezra Cleveland, and who's played pretty solid football all season long, Brian. It's going to be a big question until we see an extended look at him.
Well, and the Eagles, are really talented inside. Jordan Davis is one of the largest human beings I've ever seen. And then you put him next to Jalen Carter, and your guards. And you have Brandon Sheriff, and we're going to find out if he's able to go today or not. He's got the knee. He went back into the game last week. Talk about toughness. You're going to have to show it today on the interior with those two guards, one of whom's a backup, and one you hope is your starter.
And look, it's what Doug Pederson said. It's next man up. I mean, that is a bit of a cliche because the next man up's usually not as good as the first man
That's
up.
the way it works in
or
the
you'd
NFL,
be the first man up, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you don't have any other choice. You've got to go out there. These are professional athletes. They're NFL players. It's not like you're picking guys off the street. So if you get your name called, if you're Blake Hance and Cooper Hodges, go out there and show us what you got.
Those are two of the changes on the offensive line, one being possible. We still don't know the status of Brandon Sheriff. The other is left tackle, where Walker Little is now the entrenched starter because the Jaguars traded away Cam Robinson. Let's hear from Trevor Lawrence. He's obviously got a keen identity of the offensive line. He knows exactly who's in front of him at all times. He was asked about how he was with a change at left tackle.
Walker's done a great job. I'm excited for this opportunity for him. He's played great when he's had the opportunities the last few years. He's been put in some tough spots. He's had to play a lot of different positions. He's had to come in 22 when Cam got hurt. He had to come in and finish the season when we were on that run, and we didn't skip a beat because he was prepared, and he prepared every day like a starter. And so he's been ready for his opportunities, and that's not easy to do when you're not the full-time guy. And now that he's getting that opportunity, I'm excited for him. So I think it's like there's always two sides to it, and it's tough. And but obviously, like Walker, like I said, he's more than ready, and he's done a great job, and I'm excited for him. I've got all the faith in the world, and he's played great so far.
Look, he's a guy who's played a lot of football for this team, and I think the feeling is Walker Little may be a little bit better of a run blocker than Cam Robinson, maybe lacks some of Cam's ability in the pass protection game. Got off to a rough start last week, but I thought settled down and played very well the week before in relief of Cam Robinson. So, again, this is not a guy that you're saying, hey, you're being exposed on the road to your first NFL action here. I'm not that concerned with Walker Little. I say that now. We're still several hours ahead of the game.
Well, in talking to coaches and players this week, they all agreed that a guy who'd played at right tackle and left guard is more suited to be a left tackle. So he's back where his comfort level is, and he's been in the job now for a couple of weeks and apparently has played, the start of the Packers game notwithstanding, played pretty good football. This, by the way, is his chance. The Jaguars drafted him to eventually become their starter at left tackle, and he's now got a 9-game audition to see whether he can be the guy. He is playing for his money.
Right, and whether it's here or somewhere else,
right,
for that matter, because every eye in the National Football League is going to be on him. Anytime a guy with starting experience who's still young emerges on the free agency market at left tackle, he's going to draw interest. So I wouldn't be surprised if more people are interested in Walker Little than Cam Robinson in free agency next year, provided that Minnesota doesn't sign Cam to any kind of extension.
By the way, the word is that Cam, who practiced with the Vikings on Thursday, will start tonight against the Colts in that game that was flexed into the Eagles-Jaguars
I would
spot.
expect him to.
And if he plays, I think it's 2/3 of the snaps the rest of the way, the Jaguars have a chance to get a 4th-round pick. That's a good deal for a guy who was on an expiring contract that you didn't think you were going to come back. Still, I think some people were surprised the Jaguars actually made that move because offensive line depth is at a premium.
It is, but that's why you're able to get something, because it is at a premium. People are looking for it, right? And the Jags were in, I guess, the enviable position of having enough guys that they felt that could step in and play if necessary. And, you know, when you're a team that's 2-6, Brian, you're going to trade off pieces. There was an Adam Schefter report yesterday that said that the Jags in Pittsburgh were closing in on a deal to send Christian Kirk up to Pittsburgh.
Which is a big indicator of where the Jaguars are.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, this is coming after the Roy Robertson-Harris deal, which Doug Pederson said he didn't really anticipate any more moves. I think the feeling in the organization may have changed, like the reality setting in. At 2-6 with the remaining teams on the schedule, the likelihood of going to the postseason has dwindled to a very small chance.
And Christian Kirk has a huge cap number, $27 million next year, and clearly number 1 is now number 7 in the Jaguars receiving corps. But that's a story for a different day. Let's hear from Walker Little. He isn't new to playing left tackle, as we just told you, so he's not having to focus on anything but the opponent this week. It's a good thing. He has a big challenge in front of him on Sunday.
I think everyone knows they have a really good front seven. It's going to be a physical defense that we know that, and just watching tape on them, they're a really good front from top to bottom. They got a mix of young guys and veterans, so we're going to have our work cut out for us for sure.
And you got a Vic Fangio defense, and what makes that so difficult is Fangio's entirely unpredictable.
Yeah, any given week, the game plan's going to change. He'll come at you from different angles. And, I mean, look, you hate to use the cliche, but it is what it is, right? The Jags are well aware of what Philadelphia is capable of doing. I don't think they're going to take it easy on their favorite son, Doug Pederson. And,
he got a nice round of applause when the Jaguars went up there in his first season in Jacksonville.
Right.
He said this week he didn't anticipate getting that again.
I mean, look, I'm sure they still hold him in high regard.
Oh, he'll never pay for a drink
Right.
or wait for a table at a good restaurant in Philly.
But Philly's a very physical team, and Fangio takes advantage of that, and plus they've got a lot of talented youth in that secondary as well. The linebacker core has been turning over the last couple of years. I mean, they're a contender in the NFC if they play their best football.
Now, if you want to hear from someone on the Jaguars side who's physical and who believes in this football team and says, don't give up on us, well, it's defensive end Trayvon Walker.
Most definitely. I want to say we would count ourselves out. No, I'm definitely not saying that we're going to count ourselves out, but now it's just to the point, getting into the season, once you get into like the late November, December, those are the games that you really need to win, especially with the divisional opponents that we have coming up on our schedule and things of that nature. We just want to keep digging and get ourselves out of this hole. Like, we know the season isn't over until it's over.
When you're 2-6, you have got to figure out what it is that you're playing for. And even though it isn't necessarily the playoffs, there are these big games. Today against the Eagles, next week against the Vikings, a couple of weeks from now in Detroit. You got to play your best football, even if you're not a contender.
Well, I hope you're playing your best football just because that's your job and your love and your passion, and that's what you're paid to do every single week, Brian, is to go out there and at least give it your best effort. You're not always going to play your best football, but, I don't think anyone's necessarily giving up on the Jags from Trayvon Walker's comments there. It's more that they accept the reality of right now they're a team that has made far too many mistakes, that has cost themselves chances to win winnable games. Sure. All right, go out there and show us, that you're not just going to be competitive with some of these teams like last week. There's no moral victories here. I don't feel better because they kept it close with the Green Bay Packers. You got to win these football games. And, if you win this one, I think you'll get a lot more people back in your camp believing.
All right, let's hear from Ventrell Miller, who knows that this football team is going to have to tackle better this week than last Sunday against the Packers. And the second-year linebacker has studied the Eagles all week and offers this evaluation of their running game.
Run your feet through on contact, get to the ball, wrap up, make sure you're wrapping up, spin on contact. So he has it all in his bag. So coming when you hit him, make sure you tackle him. Got to be ready for the zone read, quarterback zone read. We've been working that in practice, and I feel good about the going out to the game.
These are two of the strongest offensive backfield guys in the NFL. They could put on a show in the weight room. Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, squatting, deadlifting. I mean, these are strong guys. Very difficult to get on the ground.
Well, it's why the Philadelphia Eagles have basically been impossible to stop in short yardage for the last couple of years with the so-called tush push, where Jalen Hurts just gets in there and he can squat 600 pounds, as we've learned through this procedure of them picking up these short yardage runs, and then he just gets shoved from behind, and it's almost impossible to stop. I've seen it stopped on third down on occasion, but they usually get it then on fourth down. So the key for the Jags, as Ventrell Miller said, you got to tackle well, and you got to put this team in third and medium or longer today, or they're going to extend drives on you and keep your defense on the field all day long.
I think Dallas Goedert's not going to play today.
No.
That gives you something that you can work with, because maybe you can have more linebackers near the line of scrimmage to stop Saquon Barkley, who 2 weeks ago ran for 176 yards against the New York Giants and
probably could have had 250 in that game.
Opted not to set his career best, and then last week ran for 108 in their 37-14 dismantling of the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, we got more sound coming up in the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show, which comes your way at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. JP Shadrick will be along for that. But coming up next on the Publix Tailgate Show, you will hear from...
Yeah, I'm going to knock on wood right here real quick. But no, it's, one, we have dogs covering, DT and Tim are great cover guys.
That's Logan Cook, and the punter doesn't do many interviews, but I coaxed him into one, and you'll hear from him coming up in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. But next, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco's perspective. You are listening to the Publix Tailgate Show here on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. a rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Jags fans, are you ready to upgrade your living space? Enter for a chance to win the ultimate furniture giveaway. You could enhance your home with a new sectional, queen mattress, or queen bedroom set, courtesy of Furniture Source. One lucky fan will receive new furniture after every Jaguars home game this season. Don't miss out. Enter today by visiting Jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Selections will vary by game.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. It's a 4:05 Eastern Time kick for the Eagles and Jaguars from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. It'll be cool, right? I think temperatures in the mid-50s.
Good football weather.
No real wind to speak of, and because of the time change, it will be dark and the lights will be on. I guess what I'm saying is there will be a big game atmosphere. Let's see if the Jaguars can take advantage of it.
Hope so. At least, even if they don't win,
right.
I'd like to see them rise to the moment, and it may be that Philadelphia just has them outmanned today. But, I don't want to see another start where they have 3 3-and-outs and a turnover.
You mean 15 yards and 7 plays in the first quarter?
I mean,
it's been the last 2 weeks.
The first 4 drives had 11 plays.
Yeah.
And if you take a knee every time, you're going to get 12. Right. So, got to get off to a better start to make you feel like you're in this football game.
You can't fall down 10-0 to these guys. You're not going to come back. I guess what I'm getting at is this team has not played well in big games. You remember the Niners game here last November? I mean,
yep.
You're coming off the bye week and you're 6-2, and the Niners just came in here and rolled them 34-3. We all have the Buffalo game and the Bears game to be able to look at from this year. I want to see this team come out and embrace the big game mentality that I think they're going to see today at Lincoln Financial Field.
Well, and as bad as the Browns are, it wasn't a lopsided loss, but no intensity, and the Browns dominated the time of possession early in that football game in your home opener. So they, and that is a big game when it's your home opener. So you're right. They haven't risen to the occasion very often.
All right, they're up against it today with some backups in the lineup and with a new starting left tackle. You caught up with Pete Prisco this week.
I did, and with that, wanted to find out Pete's thoughts on the deal that sent Cam Robinson to Minnesota.
Not surprised. It made sense from both standpoints. It made sense for the Vikings to go fill that position, vacated by the injury of Christian Darrisaw, and it makes sense for Jacksonville to get something back on him. When he was told that he wasn't playing, I heard he wasn't the greatest guy on the sideline, which is never a good thing, and so why not get rid of him? So it made sense, and now it's up to Walker Little. He's got to go out and show. He didn't play as well last week as he did the week before, and he's got to amp up his pass protection.
No doubt. There had been rumor and speculation that Christian Kirk might be a trade target for teams. Obviously, that goes by the wayside with the broken collarbone. We hope he gets fully healthy as quickly as possible. But are there any other potential trade candidates that you could see the Jaguars moving on from before Tuesday's deadline?
I thought that Kirk could be in play, like you mentioned. I also thought, maybe somebody would make them an offer for ETN, which could maybe entice them to go give him up, because he is a guy that's now, but he's been bothered by injuries, and he got the 5th-year option, so that might prevent somebody from doing that. So no, to answer your question, I think that's it. And you know what? Quite frankly, you look around that organization. What are you going to get back for some of those guys? 6, 7? That to me seems like right now you got to try and play and win some games.
All right, so Pete, what is the impact of Christian Kirk not being around for the rest of the season? Now, I'm not just talking about the on-field impact. I'm talking about being one of the veteran leaders of this team. They missed him greatly, it seemed, last year down the stretch. Now they've got to play half a season without him.
Yeah, it's tough. Whenever you lose a player like that and the guy you can count on to run good routes and get open, it's always tough. But now it's an opportunity. You drafted Washington. He's done some good things. He's made really big strides as a route runner. When you watch his tape, he's so much better, so much more fluid than he used to be, that I think he'll do a good job in there. And now what you're doing is you're looking at it, and this is the cruel reality of the NFL. You're looking at it and saying, hey, if Washington can go in there and do what he can do, then that might mean the end of Christian Kirk in Jacksonville. And so I think there's a lot of things at play there. It's tough to lose a guy like that in the middle of the season, but now it's an opportunity for a younger guy.
And look, it's probably going to be an opportunity to play more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, like we saw down the stretch out of necessity last week. But would you like to see that look with Evan Ingram and Brenton Strange, both big-time passing options for Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you got to highlight about this team. Brenton Strange is getting better. I mean, he's made big improvements, and so I do think you got to get him on the field, get him into the passing game more. And I think that by necessity will be something they will do, because you can use Ingram like a wide receiver. He gives you that kind of flexibility. So I think you'll see both those guys on the field, and they'll take advantage of that.
Trevor Lawrence, Pete, I made the observation this week. I feel like 90% of the fan base is in one of two camps. Either you shouldn't criticize Trevor because he is the best thing we've got, or Trevor Lawrence is the problem and they're never going to go anywhere as long as he's the quarterback. I think the middle ground is where I'm at. He has played some pretty darn good football over the last month, but he also at times makes some glaring mistakes. Yes, he led them back last week, but he also helped dig the hole with a slow start. So I feel like we circle back to this every week. What can Trevor and this offense do to get off to a better start against the Philadelphia Eagles today?
Throw it down the field a little bit more, I think. And we go back to last week, and he played his best football when he had to play his best football. They had to throw it. Well, he played his best football. Yes, the mistake in the middle of the field, and again, I don't know this, nobody's told me this, but two receivers in the same spot, that shouldn't have happened, and he still shouldn't throw it. It's not a great throw. The sack fumble, that's on him. He's got to get the ball out. He had a check down to Ingram in that situation, didn't check it down, tried to make a big play, and it ended up costing him a touchdown. So he's got to be smarter than that. But remember, early in the season, he wasn't turning the ball over, and everybody was complaining about he wasn't playing well. Well, then he has a couple of turnovers, but he's putting up better numbers. He had a little span there where he put up some really good numbers without major turnovers. And so I think you got to let him go. And you have a receiver in Brian Thomas who can make big plays. Let him go. Let him get down the field.
All right, so, Pete, the Jaguars' defense has allowed too many opponents to do just that, get down the field, gave up some big plays at inopportune times. I guess there's never an opportune time to give up a big play, but do you hope that with Andrew Wingard coming back, the move to put Jarian Jones in at nickel. They're shifting some pieces around. Is there hope that the secondary can play better with the personnel that they have on hand?
Yes. To open the season, I always thought it was a major mistake not having Jones on the field as the nickel corner and Savage as the safety, and they were stubborn about it, and they paid the price for it. And now if you get Winger back and you replace, Cisco in the lineup, and then all of a sudden your two starting safeties from week one are gone. And so that tells you where they were in terms of coverage. They're giving up a ton of big plays, but in fairness to the guys on the back end, there's no push in the middle, no rush whatsoever, zero. And so even when you have Josh Hines-Allen, who's getting a lot of pressures, he's not getting the guy on the ground, and Walker is getting some guys on the ground, you have nobody in the middle that can push the pocket, and that's a major problem, and that's why they're having problems on defense and why they're one of the worst pass defenses in the league.
All right, quickly, Pete, how do you see the matchup going with Philadelphia today?
I don't like it. I think this Eagles team is starting to feel itself a little bit. They're getting better in Vic Fangio's defense. They're feeling more comfortable on that side of the ball. The offensive line has, they have some guys hurt, but they're still being able to move the football. Hurts is playing better. I don't like it. I think it's a bad matchup. I think the Eagles boat race them.
And that, a lot of sentiment like that, I think, from Jaguar observers, but you got a chance to prove them wrong this afternoon.
He said something at the end of the interview, and I've been trying to find a way to express it, and he just gave me the way to do it. The Eagles are looking comfortable, right? He was talking about them in Vic Fangio's defense. I don't see the Jaguars looking comfortable on either side of the ball. Not in Doug Pederson's offense and not in Ryan Nielsen's defense. They just don't look comfortable.
I think that's more on the defensive side. To me, at least over the last month, I do think the offense has had its moments, but it's not consistent.
It doesn't make everything look easy, right? When you watch some of these teams and it just seems easy.
Yeah, you got guys running open. Right. You got good protection. You got all these things, and it I feel that though after those initial 4 drives, the offense did do some really good things last week, and Trevor basically had no yards at that point, and he ended up throwing for over 300. So they did get cranked up, and you got opportunities for guys like Brenton Strange and Parker Washington to have bigger roles in this offense today.
You'd have to think without Christian Kirk and to some degree without Gabe Davis, they're going to have to mix things up and try different things, different looks, different personnel groups. Hopefully they find a way to make it look easy for the Jaguars on offense today. If they don't, well, then we will be hearing from the guy we're about to hear from. And listen, I'll be honest, you haven't heard a lot from Logan Cook, even though the Jaguars punter is in his 7th season in Jacksonville. Now that Cam is gone, he is the longest tenured Jag. He likes it that way, by the way. And when you have a great player, you need to hear from him occasionally. So he relented, spent a few minutes talking special teams, and the best punt of his career last Sunday against Green Bay.
So the way I try to do it is like if I have the ball at I would say 35, minus 35 yard line and back, I'm pretty much, unless you're backed up real deep, I'm aiming at the pylon in case I hit it 70 yards or 65 yards. If it goes out of bounds, it's down to the 1. If it goes in the end zone, we call it like a 60-40 ball, so it's going to be a 45-yard net. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. So that punt, I was just aiming at the pylon, and it almost hit the pylon.
How often in practice do you hit that punt?
A good bit, to be honest. I just work on different things. When I was younger in my career, I was just trying to hit good punts in practice to please the coaches. Well, then now, I'm a little more comfortable in where I'm at from the standpoint of each day. Sometimes there's wind, and that day, even if we're playing, say, in Houston that week, indoors, that week I can work on windy situation punts. Well, today, for instance, 2 of those punts really ticked me off the other night because, in that area of the field, I love hitting that ball low out of bounds or whatever in that scenario, and I just dropped it inside, and they were touchbacks. And I worked on that all day today. I try to hit every single ball out of bounds. So it's, each day changes. But
tell me about the cohesion you guys have as a punt unit, because I can't remember the last time that anyone had a substantial return against you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna knock on wood right here real quick. But no, it's one, we have dogs covering. DT and Tim are great cover guys, and then interior guys. Our long snapper led us last year in tackles. So we have great coverage guys. But for me, every game before the game, me and DT and Tim always kind of dap each other up right before kickoff, hey, let's make it between us 3. Because if us 3 are the first ones to control the returner, whether it's me hitting the ball out of bounds or those 2 guys, tackling right off the bat, so that's kind of, we try to take pride in using the sideline and using, good punts on my end and great coverage on their end to kind of pin them.
You're the old guy in the locker room now. With Cam going, you were the longest tenured Jaguar. Does it seem like it's been that long?
Yeah, I guess I'm next, I reckon. No, it doesn't seem that long sometimes. Obviously love Cam, gonna miss Cam too. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the few seasons we had, there's a lot of turnover, so it kind of ends up that way.
And how important do you feel like it is to be a spark for this team when things aren't going well? Because that play the other day was a spark for sure.
Yeah, there's not there's not many opportunities for us to be able to make a play. So whenever we do have a chance, it's cool. But sometimes when we have a chance to make a play and I don't hit a great punt, I really try to take pride in that. So sometimes I get pretty upset whenever I don't take advantage, just because we don't get those opportunities.
Final thought: the three of you guys, you and Ross and Cam, spend a lot of time together. Do you give the rookie a lot of grief? First time I saw him, I didn't know he was the kicker until he turned around and had like a $3,000 Louis Vuitton bag on. I mean, he looks like he's straight out of high school.
Yeah, no, you nailed it with all that. He has a phone problem. He's on his phone a good bit, so we've tried to nip that in the butt. He loves some fancy stuff, but to each his own. I mean, I spend thousands of dollars on hunting stuff, so fishing stuff. That's his hobby. So no, he's a good kid. It's kind of hard to give him grief about certain things, so we kind of have to make a point to find something every day just to mess with him. But he's a really good kid and a good kicker. So
when the three of you guys spend time together, you better like each other. It sounds like you guys do.
Yeah, you have to. I think a lot of the on-the-field success stems from having off-the-field relationships as well. And obviously me and Ross are like brothers. We don't talk to each other for a couple months after the season, but I think that's how it's supposed to be. But yeah, we're all close, and I think that attributes.
Who is the Bart Starr Award nominee for the Jaguars, which is given annually to an NFL player for outstanding character and integrity in his home, on the field, and in the community. He spends time locally at the Ronald McDonald House and made trips to East Africa and Kenya to help build and advocate for greater access to clean water in remote villages. As you heard, there were guys walking, wanting to talk to him. Popular guy in the locker room, an important player for this football team, especially with an offense that's been struggling.
You hate it, though, that your specialist might be the guy who's the best at his position on the team, right? I do, at least, right?
I get it.
You want to have 5 or 6 guys on each side of offense or defense, but Logan Cook is about as good as they get in the National Football League.
All right, well, coming up on the Publix Tailgate Show, Hall of Famer Tony Boselli and Jeff Lageman join us in the booth, but up next.
To think you're going to have the same 5 for 17 straight games is crazy. I mean, that rarely happens.
The offensive coordinator knows his unit has to get going faster today in Philadelphia. You'll hear from Press Taylor coming up. The Eagles and Jaguars begin at 4:05 this afternoon in Philadelphia. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Everyone circle up. I know it looks rough out there. Sure, we're down 24-6, but we came here to play differently. We need a game changer. Something like Ring Central, the business phone system that's more than a phone. I want you to communicate like you can talk to anyone, anywhere, all from the same app. Now get out there and play like you're using Ring Central.
Ring Central. Simpler communications.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Now the Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios. And it's time for our weekly commentary with Rick Ballou.
This won't be easy. The Jags have lost 6 straight road games, and for the second week in a row, they face a top 10 scoring offense and scoring defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's face it, the Jaguars right now are playing soft, and Philadelphia is one of the most physical teams in the NFL. They will punish you in the ditch. They also have a superstar running back in Saquon Barkley. Their rushing offense averages 166 yards a game. That is second only to Baltimore. Add to that quarterback Jalen Hurts. Oh, yeah. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith going up against the Jaguars' 31st ranked pass defense. And this could be a long day. Here we go. If the Jags pull off the upset, look for these 2 things. Josh Hines-Allen against backup left tackle Fred Johnson. He struggled 2 weeks ago against Brian Burns. Did show some improvement last Sunday against Trey Hendrickson. Hines-Allen only has 3 sacks this year. Jacksonville in their pass rush, only 1 sack last week against Green Bay, and they had 27 dropbacks. Finally, I don't know if anyone can explain why the Jaguars are zombies. They're like that when the game begins. They only average 2.5 points in the first quarter. Believe it or not, Philadelphia hasn't scored in the first 15 minutes of play all year. Dare I say a fast start for the Jaguars? Enjoy the game.
Into the night with Rick Ballou. That's weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010 XL. Well, offensive coordinator Press Taylor isn't worried about the offense, even though they're down one of their best receivers. Just traded away the starting left tackle, and both guards are beat up. He's focused on the guys he has and finding a way to get the offense off to a better start than the last couple of weeks.
I think we've had, when you go back and look at the plans and the situations we've had and the things we've done, there's been times where we just haven't executed a play early on, but we do. We have to make sure we're putting our guys in the best possible position with all things. You know, it's a clean look to start the run game. It's a clear and obvious read for the quarterback early on. So where guys are able to operate with conviction. I think that's a big part of it. And then making sure we're getting the ball to our best players at key times and making those plays.
When you talk about conviction, you mean confidence that they know what they're doing and in the right situation?
I mean conviction. We talk a lot about, guys, the difference of conviction and confidence. And conviction, I believe, it comes from you know. And that's what we like to say. We want our guys to have conviction in the things we're doing. There's open communication with all the plans we have. We want our guys to believe in the situations we think we're going to be able to put them in. And so, you know, we work together to be able to do all this.
Offensive line was playing well. Now it's shuttled up a little bit. Cam is gone. Walker steps in. You've got an injury with Ezra. How do you see the offensive line on the practice field this week and preparing to face a really big defensive line?
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's life in the NFL. I mean, to think you're going to have the same 5 for 17 straight games is crazy. I mean, that rarely happens. So we've prepared for this since we got this group together, and we have a lot of confidence in the guys that are stepping in and asked to play more important roles this week.
Trevor talked about Walker. What do you see from Walker, and do you see him as a left tackle? I know he's played all over the line.
Yeah, I think Walker's one of our 5 linemen. I mean, somebody's got to go in at some position, but a lot of our guys have been cross-trained to be able to give us snaps at any position that we need necessary for that week. And I do think Walker's future is at left tackle. But the thing about Walker that's been so cool is he will do whatever we ask him to do based on that week. Whatever gives us our team the best chance to win. Left tackle, right tackle, guard, whatever that may be.
You can't replace a guy like Christian Kirk. He's that valuable. He's got such a great relationship with Trevor. But Parker Washington has made strides. I mean, it's clear that he's got something going. What do you see from him, and what kind of a role does he have?
Yeah, Parker's a guy that we've just watched get better and better and better every single day he's been here. You know, he came in injured last year, sat behind Christian, who we believe is the ultimate role model, especially for that particular slot role in this offense. So Parker's had an opportunity to watch him, learn from him, but also make it his own. He's not going to move the way Christian moves. He's going to do things the way he needs to do them to get the job done. And then, you know, there's a lot of number of guys that we can put in those positions. We have other tight ends, outside receivers moved inside at times. Parker does a great job on the outside, honestly. So it's about, you know, the 5 eligibles giving us the best possible position to move the football down the field through the air if we need to.
In your experience, how long does it take a quarterback to develop a good working knowledge of a receiver? Because you may play without a couple of guys here with injuries.
Yeah, I think it takes time. It honestly does. But I think there's some things that come quicker than others. Certain routes where you just have a good feel for this player, or we've watched that player run it a number of times. But there's certain things that, you know, Christian did that were Christian's thing and that we had a lot of conviction in with him doing it. You know, maybe it's somebody else's role. Maybe it is Parker's role. Maybe that thing kind of goes away from the offense in times until we believe it's game ready.
Since you used the word conviction, where's your conviction with this offense's ability to get started? I mean, there's 9 games left, and you've got a lot of weapons.
I know how good we can be. We've seen it in spurts. It's about consistently being that operation and being able to produce when called upon. And we know we can do it. We know exactly. I wouldn't say there's any ceiling on this offense. We've achieved great things at times. So we know we're capable of it. Anytime you know we're capable of it, we believe we can get that done.
And finally, you won a Super Bowl here in Philadelphia. How much fun is it to come back and play in an environment that you know is as raucous as there is in the NFL?
Yeah, I told our guys today, I mean, this is as good of an NFL environment to play on in the road or on the road as you can ask for. You know, we'll be under the lights at some point in the second half, which is really cool. It's a great environment to play football. It's one of those proud franchises that the fans are rowdy, the fans are into it, supporting their team, love good football, respect good football, and so it's just a fun environment to go play in.
If it's going to be fun today in the second half, the offense has got to get off to a good start early, whether that's tempo, whether that's shooting the ball downfield to Brian Thomas Jr. early and getting a big play, whatever it takes to get the offense into a rhythm early.
Yeah, I don't think we care, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, but for that matter, let's score on defense. That would help as well. But I think, you know, it's a little bit of the chicken or the egg thing when you talk about conviction. Okay, you want to have the conviction that you're capable of doing something, and so you go out there and have that belief, and you can fulfill that. But how do you get that conviction when you don't have the success of doing it? You know, I think you got to have a little bit of success to build that conviction, and they feed off of each other.
Is there anything about this Jaguars offense that you are convicted of through 8 games?
Yes.
I mean, is there something that you believe that you know they do well?
Yes, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
He's a problem for defenses. You know, going deep to him when it's protected has usually resulted in a positive play. Either he comes down with it or he draws a pass interference penalty. And even on the incomplete ones, it just puts that idea in the defensive coordinator's mind that, hey, we cannot stack the box, which is good for Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. So, yeah, I think pretty much any time the ball's going in Brian Thomas Jr.'s direction, it's been pretty positive.
One quick thought on Parker Washington. It's clear that there are people in this organization that are excited to see him with the ball in his hands. He's got an explosiveness. Christian Kirk is smooth, like the race cars that he loves to follow. This guy is more explosive, more sudden. I'm excited to watch Parker Washington today.
Why not, right? I mean, he may be the future as soon as right now, right? I mean, you know, with as we talked about earlier, the report that the Jags were getting ready to trade Christian Kirk, that could be a move they make in the offseason. He might not be back. We may have seen the last of him in a Jaguar uniform. Parker Washington's going to be here for a while. We saw the explosiveness on the 96-yard kickoff return, punt return, a few weeks ago. Hopefully he'll bring that to the offense today.
All right, if you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, folks, you better check out the 2024 Ford F-150. It's loaded with impressive capability and game-changing technology. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. Test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer. They're a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, Hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. When we return, though, we'll go to the broadcast booth at Lincoln Financial Field, where Jaguars analyst Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Boselli will join us from the broadcast booth. The Eagles and Jaguars are on deck. It's Week 9. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show, and this is Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips. Delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages. And you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959. Serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ancient City Brewing is celebrating 30 years of Jags football by becoming the proud craft beer partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what better way to celebrate a throwback year than to throw back some of their expertly crafted beers? From Augustine's Orange Amber Ale to their Castillo Coconut Porter, there's always something new to discover at Ancient City Brewing, including the new First and Gold Golden Ale, coming soon to a Duval County store near you. Ancient City Brewing, taste history, make history, and please always drink responsibly.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium, because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Jaguars fans, huddle up. Do you own a vehicle made in the last 10 years? If your car is outside of factory warranty or with no warranty coverage, get the best defense against expensive auto repairs with CarShield, the official auto protection partner of the Jaguars. With plans to fit every budget, CarShield helps you cover up to 5,000 parts and systems. Call 800-471-1223 now or go to carshield.com/Jaguars. That's 800-471-1223. Coverage varies by plans. View contracts and exclusions at carshield.com.
And we're back on the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. Kickoff comes your way at 4:05 Eastern Time from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Time now in advance of the Jaguars-Eagles kickoff for First Rounds on Us.
New York Jets, first-round choice. Jeff Lageman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle, Southern California, Tony Boselli.
And the First Rounds on Us is presented by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. And Jeff and Tony join us from the crisp fall location at Lincoln Financial Field. How you guys doing?
Doing good, Brian. I mean, it's a fantastic fall weather up here in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And looking forward to a matchup that's not going to be an easy one for the Jaguars today.
Yeah, you could not dial up better football weather.
No.
I mean, crystal clear blue skies, no wind, it's not raining, it's not wet. It's just perfect. It should be a great day.
It's a play all day kind of a game.
It is.
You know, I mean, if you're thinking about rotating all your defenders, I'm going, wait a minute. You know what? In today's game, challenging game, great conditions, I'm going to play my guys, okay, as much as they can go, because I'm not worried about them getting tired in a 60-degree day.
Well, you know, you bring up a good point, Jeff. You played defense. I mean, you're a defensive end. How often did you need to come off to get a rest? I mean, as an offensive lineman, you wanted to get into the rhythm of the game. I never wanted to come out because if you just wanted to play and kind of get in a rhythm and get a feel for it.
Give me 85% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Around 85%. Just give me an occasion, especially if there's like a drive that's
long drive.
Yeah, double digits, But then again, if it's third down, I want to be back on the field.
Yep.
So I hope that the Jaguars defense can kind of find a nice groove. There's a lot of guys that may be coming back today with Andrew Wingard, and you got Foye Lukin back in the lineup. Ventrell Miller's been rotating. I hope they can find a little consistency and a little stability with the lineup, because I think that's the only way that you can get better.
All right, well, let me shoehorn in here and get to finding solutions presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. Since you're talking about defense, I can think of maybe one reason why you might rotate guys. They're getting tired of getting hit by Saquon Barkley. My guess is that the Jaguars are going to get a full dose of one of the best rushing attacks in football. How do you attack it today?
Well, and I think this is the Jaguars' defense greatest challenge yet this year. And the reason why is a couple reasons. Number one, Saquon Barkley is a really good player. Number two, he's behind an offensive line that even though they're playing some backup, it's a really physical unit.
Big group.
And then you have a mobile quarterback that factors in, that makes it easier for Saquon because you have to account for him as a running back every time. And then the last thing, you got two dynamic wide receivers on the outside.
It's hard to put two safeties. It's hard to put that safety in the box when you got those two guys outside.
Yeah, this is a tough matchup. And, the thing I worry about is that, the Jaguars defense plays a lot of man. They play a lot of extra guys in the box. But the Jaguars defense has also given up 67 explosive plays on the season. Okay, an explosive play, that by definition, is a run of 12 yards or more, and then a pass reception of 16 yards or more. They've given up 67, which is the highest in the National Football League. And when you're facing an offense that in the last 3 games, their quarterback, by the way, has a 127 rating, this is not an easy game.
All right, guys, sounds like a walk in the park. Flip it around to the Jaguars' offensive line. We're going to see Walker Little in there, probably Cooper Hodges, maybe Blake Hance today. Philadelphia has a very physical defensive front as well. What are your expectations for this newly reconfigured O-line for Jacksonville?
Well, I think they got a big test in front of them, Mike. I mean, this is a very physical. I mean, Jeff talked about the physicality of the Eagles' offensive line. But if you look at this Eagles defense, you got 2 big guys and 2 Georgia Bulldogs who are going to be feeling good after that Georgia win yesterday. But Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are big physical men. And Jalen Carter is also not only good. Jordan Davis is more a run guy. Jalen Carter can do it all. And so the interior 3 are going to be tested in the physicality. And the only way you beat physicality is with physicality. Now, on the outside, they're good players. I don't think they're dominant pass rushers. So I think we'll be okay. And I think actually having Walker Little in there is going to help you in the run game because he's a better finisher than Cam was in the run game.
Yeah, the concern that I have with that matchup is that when you watch Jalen Carter, okay, and he's like Chris Jones. I mean, he can be that dominant at times. He lines up at nose tackle or left defensive tackle. That's where he's at. Okay, and that is right over essentially Brandon Sheriff, which is, that's a tough matchup for the Jaguars because Sheriff is athletic and he moves well, but the big physical brawl in the phone booth kind of things, he hasn't handled that particularly well. That's a matchup that you got to watch today.
All right, guys, we know the Jags are going to be shorthanded at receiver with Christian Kirk going on IR. The reports are Gabe Davis unlikely to play. Brian Thomas Jr. is expected to give it a go. How well suited are they to fill the gaps in their wide receiving core?
Well, Mike, based on the fourth quarter last week, I think maybe go run out there in 12 personnel with Brenton Strange and Ingram and whoever's outside. And I'm looking forward, the guy I'm really looking forward to watching today is Parker Washington because what he has done early in the game in limited reps, a limited role, whether it's on special teams or as the backup slot receiver, I think he's looked dynamic. He's not a burner, but, boy, he is shifty, and he's great with the ball in his hands, run after catch. And so, yeah, would we like to have Kirk? And, yeah, you want Brian Thomas Jr. for sure with his speed. And I think he ends up playing today, by the way. But if they can protect with Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, you want your top line guys, but I think the three of them proved last week that they can get open and they can make plays.
Yeah, and the whole Strange and Evan Ingram thing on the field at the same time last week. Loved it.
I loved it too.
Loved it.
I'd go more 12 personnel, Jeff.
So, I would like to see a lot of that going forward, because you're a little bit limited going to the 3 wide receiver package.
Right.
You got Parker and you got Brian, and I don't know exactly if Brian Thomas Jr. goes. Is he 100%? Can he handle a hit? How's he going to last the whole game? That's something to watch.
But, guys, I would say, and just so everyone listening, 12 personnel is 1 back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. I actually think the best offensive unit right now on the field is Brenton Strange, Evan Ingram, Parker Washington, Brian Thomas Jr. if he's healthy, with Bigsby in the backfield. I think is the best skilled position grouping we have in the current roster with the injuries and everything else going on.
Yeah, I love the Strange running over the linebacker last week.
Oh.
Man, give me some more of that today.
It's like Mark Bavaro.
Do they need to get that running game going today, maybe to shorten this game a little bit?
Well, not just shorten the game. I think that's part of it, Mike. I think it's a good call out by you. You want to control the clock. I don't think our defense is going to have a lot of answers for the Eagles' offense, and so you do want to try to keep them on the sideline as much as possible. But even more than that, I just don't think it's a good thing on the road in this ballpark to get behind and have to play catch up. Even though they're not great pass rushers, Jalen Carter can rush the passer. They have capable guys outside, and if they know that's all you're going to do, it could be a long day.
Well, and our back end's pretty good. I mean, even Darius Slay's not playing today. He hurt his groin last week, but even beyond him, Isaiah Rodgers was the starter for the Colts. He's a good football player. They got 2 high draft picks from this spring's draft that are very good players in Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper Jean, and then C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship in the back end. I mean, it's a talented group in the back end.
All right, fellas. Have a great broadcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Right, Tony and Jeff, first rounds on us, brought to you by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. And up next, the second hour, the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick is alongside. Top stories of the day coming up, and the Eagles and Jaguars kick off at 4:05 this afternoon. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show here on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey, Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Navigating the current housing market and figuring out your best move when it comes to a mortgage isn't your full-time job, but it's one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. That's where the experts at Jet Home Loans get into the game and coach you to your ultimate goal of getting not just the right loan, but the perfect loan for you, the home of your dreams. Jet Home Loans works with you all the way, from application to closing, making sure your game plan is perfect. Make the call to Jet Home Loans and let their team join your team to make your dreams take flight. Visit jethl.com.
Big Number 1 Duval Ford is trusted by Duval families, Duval businesses, and law enforcement across Florida. We are Jacksonville's largest Ford dealer by Ford sales, with the biggest service facility to keep everything in your driveway on the road. Shop Big Number 1 Duval Ford on Cassett Avenue for our low prices and nationally recognized service-first experience. Big Number 1 Duval Ford, proudly serving Duval since 1916.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey ham, melted cheddar and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey, Jaguars fans. Sack those snack cravings with Dippin' Dots, the original Beat It ice cream brand. Grab a cup of your favorite flavor or discover a new flavor from one of the Dippin' Dots locations right here at EverBank Stadium. Get ready to taste the fun with Dippin' Dots.
I want my Dippin' Dots.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It is the Jaguars and the Eagles coming up. A 4:05 kickoff time from Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville for a preview of this matchup today. It's a powerful Eagles team that's found their stride. They started 2-2, had the bye week. They've won 3 in a row. And the Jaguars trying to find their way at 2-6. On paper, not the best matchup. This is a physical Philly team in the trenches.
Yeah, I think this is one of those where fans think if the Jags are going to win or contend in this game, it's just like, hey, it's the NFL, right? Crazy things happen. And they do, JP. Sometimes when you're the biggest underdog, you have your best performances out there. But definitely on paper, the Philadelphia Eagles come in playing better football right now. They're 5-2. They're very physical on both lines of scrimmage. They have outstanding skill players, even without Dallas Goedert in there. They're loaded at wide receiver. They've got Saquon Barkley having a tremendous year. Jalen Hurts is impossible to stop in short yardage. They've got playmakers on defense. So, yeah, it should be pretty easy for the Jags.
Yeah, okay.
All that.
3 whole hours of this today, starting at 4:05.
Well, look, the Jags played, I thought, very spirited football after losing so many of their key offensive weapons last week. Their top 3 receivers were out. They played a lot of 12 personnel down the stretch. Yep. Guys stepped up and made plays. Parker Washington was talked about as a guy in training camp that might be the most improved player from last year to this year on this roster. He's going to get a chance to show that today. And Brenton Strange has had a lot of reps with Evan Ingram getting hurt with that hamstring injury early. Now you're going to see them both on the field, I think, a ton today. Hopefully Brian Thomas Jr. can go, and we'll see if either of these practice squad call-ups in Elijah Cooks and Austin Trammell have a little something for us.
We'll take a look at that coming up in a little bit. The Game Day weather is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, currently 59 degrees and sunny. By game time, should be still 59. It'll be in the low 50s by the end of the game, maybe around the high 40s as well, but should be clear conditions for the Jaguars and the Eagles today. Here's some of today's top stories, starting off with the Jaguars dealing with injuries as a banged-up football team. Head coach Doug Pederson knows how they must approach it.
The games are still going to come. The league's still going to continue on, and we're going to continue on, and we got to coach. It's why we develop guys in the off season, for opportunities like this, right? So whether it's a young player, a rookie, or a vet, or a practice squad elevation, we're going to continue to coach everybody and get them prepared for each week.
And that was one I haven't seen before last week. The top 3 receivers for a team going out in one game. That was and not finishing the game. Doesn't happen too often. Fortunately, 2 of the 3 feels like are trending the right direction. Christian Kirk, of course, done for the year.
Yeah, the word is today that Gabe Davis not expected to go. But we'll see officially when the inactives come out. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is trending in the right direction. You can't replicate what he does for this football team when he's not on the field. But I think, in terms of getting a look at some young guys, Cooper Hodges got a big spotlight on him today because this is a guy they may be counting on to walk into a starting role next year. He's going to get perhaps extended time. Obviously, with Ezra Cleveland out today, we don't know if Brandon Sheriff is going to be able to go, but maybe we'll see Blake Hansen there as well. But it's an opportunity for Cooper Hodges to show the Jaguar fan base and this coaching staff what he's capable of.
Trevor Lawrence will have some new receivers to work with. He did this week at practice, at least. Extra work to get everybody on the same page.
Me and Parker have worked a lot, obviously, because, the year he had last year in the offseason and all that stuff, there was the plan, obviously, to get him involved and to have things for him, and we've been working him in
even before the injuries. But so I feel like that chemistry is there, definitely with the other guys though that could possibly be up on Sunday. Just making sure that we're all good on basic stuff, timing, and obviously I throw a little bit to them as the season goes on, but it's not as much as the main guys. Just naturally, you only have so much time. So kind of making up for some of those reps now this week and getting the plan in and running all these different routes with the guys just to make sure whatever happens, whoever's out there, we're ready and we've gotten the reps.
We'll see how that plays today on the offensive side of things. You mentioned the offensive line and the left guard position today, but Walker Little, yes, is at left tackle. He's getting the start there after the trade of Cam Robinson really for the rest of the year. So being involved with the starting group, having familiarity with the way Trevor Lawrence runs things on offense is huge for Walker Little at left tackle.
Yeah, it's definitely nice being in, just being with the cadence of Trevor, the same play calls, and getting in the rhythm. Similar to what Tank said, it helps. I think it helps anybody out there, whether it's running backs, offensive linemen, whoever it is. So it's definitely nice.
So really a whole new left side of the offensive line for Trevor Lawrence in this Jags offense.
Yeah, it's a different combination, but he has played a lot of football with Walker Little. I don't think this is one where you go out there and you're that concerned about it. The feeling is Cam Robinson's better in pass protection. So, you know what, maybe run the football a little bit more, as we talked about that, Brian Sexton and I, in the last hour, along with Tony and Jeff, that, it's dual purpose here. Maybe you shorten the game a little bit. You give your defense a little bit of rest. And when you're depleted a little bit on the offensive line and in the wide receiver core, you protect your quarterback that way as well.
Well, you know who is going to run the football for sure? That's the Philadelphia Eagles on the offensive side. Saquon Barkley, second in the league coming into this week in rushing yardage. And Jalen Hurts can do it with his legs as well. And they get down near the goal line. They do the push play. There's everything that goes into the run game. But it is a challenge for this Jaguars defense trying to slow it down. So Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts can keep it and pull it out of there. Defensive end Trayvon Walker this week on how to defend the run option.
You just have to be disciplined. Everybody just has to go out there and play their assignment, execute their job on that play. If it's surfing or if it's me doing whatever it is, just have to go out there and execute.
And then defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen on the brotherly shove and how to slow it down.
They've been stopped, and you just got to – it's a strain play, and you just got to outstrain them. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You got to play lower than them. You got to push harder than them, and they executed at a high level. We're going to have to do a really good job of just executing and pushing, and then the other thing, and let's not get into that situation. That's a lot easier said than done, but let's keep them out of the third and fourth and ones.
It's a running game that is really fantastic. Of course, you have Saquon Barkley. He can plug in anywhere. He jumps into this offense, and the same kind of idea as what Baltimore is doing with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and it opens up a lot of things when you have two weapons that can move.
Well, no question, right? You got to worry about that mesh point where they run a little RPO action at you, and that making your linebackers maybe hesitate a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see. Ventrell Miller's been a great downhill attacker, and I think that's the way you've got to handle it. You've got to make them commit to something. You can't just kind of hang back and try to see what develops there. By the way, the success rate last year for Philadelphia on the tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you're calling it, 93.5%. So, yes, it has been stopped 6.5% of the time. And usually when it's stopped on third down, they get it on fourth down because they're not afraid to do it a couple of times in a row. Look, if it's 3rd and 2, they're probably going to do it, because they know if they do it twice, they're likely to get the first down.
Yeah, yard each time equals first down in their math. That's there you have it. Some of the top stories for today's Jaguars-Eagles matchup. Jags fans can't make the game. We get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix military veterans in the community through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix, tickets for troops. Let's head to Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia, and Kainani Stevens is standing by. How are things in Philly so far, Kai? What's up?
Gentlemen, it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good football day. It's a little chilly, but I think it'll be a great game this afternoon.
A little brisk, in the high 50s or so, and that's football weather. The calendar has turned to November. The games become important in all levels of football, certainly in the NFL, and the Jaguars are going to a place that, well, they haven't fared that well. Honestly, they last time up there was pouring rain, and Trevor Lawrence fumbled it away 4 times, and they'd love to get that out of their memory bank today and against a Philadelphia team that's starting to hit their stride, it feels like, Guy.
Yeah, it's not a great time to be heading up here. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles have got won their last 3 games and kind of seem to be putting it together right now. Jalen Hurts is playing really well. And the Jaguars, obviously, we've been on and off. Feel like there's a lot of games, missed opportunities for them. So it's a little frustrating. I think you would have liked to come in here with a bit of a better record, make it a little more competitive. But, again, with this team, we saw them step up big without some of their players last week due to injury, and so they'll have that same opportunity today.
Philadelphia is a unique media market, certainly, and even with the 2-2 start this year, there was heat on Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, as there usually is sometimes when things aren't going as well as Eagle fans and Philadelphia fans expect. But since the bye week, they've won 3 in a row. Somebody who knows that very well, Kai, of course, is Jaguars head coach Doug Pederson. He was there for 5 years and still has a little bit of a connection in Philadelphia, or feels connected in a way after winning a championship there.
He does, and he talked earlier this week about, he was head coach here for 5 years. He was here longer than that as assistant, and just kind of understanding the market. There's a lot of love for him still here just from the fans. I don't think you would hear, which is interesting because you hear a lot of ill will sometimes from Eagles fans, but you won't hear much about Doug in that regard. And Doug Pederson talked a little bit earlier this week about speaking with Nick Sirianni when he ended up taking over the job.
It's a tough business, and I can appreciate a new head coach going in there and what to expect, and just to be a resource, to be somebody there that's been it. I did it for 5 years, and I was assistant coach there for a long time, and really just to, if you had any questions, to just ask me. It's just a respect thing. It's hard enough to be a head coach in this league, and any advice I could give, a new time or a first-time head coach, I was going to do it.
Well, there you go, Kai. I mean, that's pretty classy for a guy who just got whacked in Philly to help out the next guy coming in, right?
Absolutely. And, I mean, obviously Doug knows better than anybody what this market is like. So for him to reach out, I thought that was pretty classy of him, too. And I think the fans still respect that. Obviously, he left. He got fired from here. But I think, bringing a Super Bowl home, he still has that respect. Obviously, he's got the statue on the other side of the stadium, which he says he has not seen in person yet. But I don't think he's going for a walk to check it out today. Maybe a different day.
Yeah, he said that in the press conference this week. They asked him, "Hey, have you seen it?" He's like, "No. I mean, what do you want me to do? Go tailgate too while I'm at it? And what I got things to do on Sunday. Can't make it over there." What's going on in the stadium right now? Anybody getting loose early? What's the scene right now in Philly?
We got a little activation action out here. Haven't seen Trevor just yet, but I think he usually heads out around this time and just trying to get warmed up because, as you mentioned, it is football weather in the Northeast, which football weather is different than Florida football weather. So definitely want to warm up a little bit. Temperatures might drop a little bit when the sun goes down towards the later half of this game, but should be a good one.
I'm curious to see how the Jaguars battle through this injury bug that bit them last week, and especially in the receivers core. And we know Christian Kirk's done. Gabe Davis, who knows? Brian Thomas was fighting through some stuff. The offensive line has changes. There's a lot going on in the injury room right now.
There is. I think there's some hope considering the way they ended that game against the Packers. You saw they simplified a lot of stuff. They were running 12 personnel at times, 22 personnel at times. So to see them lose some of their key stars and still find a way to be successful on offense, that gives me hope. Now, they haven't started a lot of games that way, so I'd love to see them start a game fast that way on offense. I think that gives them the best chance at this. But I do have faith. I want to see some of the younger players, see what you have. Obviously, trading away Cam Robinson, we're going to get a chance to see exactly what Walker Little can do as the starting left tackle for this team for the rest of the season. So that's something to keep an eye on. Also, we're going to get to see Cooper Hodges a little bit, too, because of the injuries elsewhere on the offensive line. So a lot of opportunity for people to step up today, so I'm hoping for the best.
It's a heck of a starting debut for Cooper Hodges against this defensive front for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, Kai, Philadelphia is a fantastic Saturday night dinner town. What did you choose?
I wasn't actually in Philadelphia. I went to New York City yesterday.
Well, then, okay.
So I don't have anything to share, but I do love Philly. I'm a Geno's over Pat's, if anybody wanted my recommendations on cheesesteaks.
There are plenty of places there for that. Kai, enjoy the game. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Kai Stevens joining us from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, as the Eagles prepare to entertain the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're closing in on inactives. We'll get those to you in about 15, 20 minutes or so. Up next, CBS Sports play-by-play announcer Andrew Catalon on the road ahead for the Jaguars. It's a 4:05 kick for the Jags and the Eagles, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, Nemours Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are Nemours Children's Health.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT. What makes that famous call
Dinner's ready!
even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. The Publix Tailgate Show continues inside 2 hours until Week 9. The Jaguars at 2-6, the Eagles at 5-2. It's a 4:05 kickoff time today at Lincoln Financial Field. Let's go around the National Football League.
Yeah, JP, it's rare that we have the occasion to look at a lot of games in progress when the Jags are on in the pregame here, but that's exactly the situation, of course. Well, 1 o'clock kickoffs either at or nearing halftime. Miami up on Buffalo 10-6. Amari Cooper was questionable coming into today for the Bills. He was unable to go, so Buffalo's only managed a couple of field goals in the early going. Devon Achane has the only touchdown in that game for the Dolphins. The Broncos trail the Ravens 17-7, but Bo Nix caught a touchdown from Cortland Sutton, his number one wide receiver out there in Denver. Derrick Henry with another rushing score on the season, and Zay Flowers with a touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson, providing the TDs for Baltimore in that game. J.K. Dobbins just took one in from 16 yards out for the Los Angeles Chargers as they increased their lead over the Cleveland Browns to 20-3. No Week 2 magic so far from Jameis Winston after he threw for a ton of yards against Baltimore in an upset victory last week. Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnston both have touchdown receptions from Justin Herbert for L.A. in that contest. Low scoring between the Saints and the Panthers. New Orleans up 13-7 in this one. Taysom Hill with a rushing score and a pair of field goals for New Orleans give them that edge. Xavier Legette with the touchdown catch from Bryce Young, who's getting the start over a healthy Andy Dalton for Carolina in that contest. The Raiders and Bengals knotted up at 10. Jacoby Myers, an early score for Las Vegas. And then Cincinnati came back with Chase Brown catching a touchdown from 1 yard out from Joe Burrow. Brown getting the start today with Zach Moss inactive due to injury for the Bengals, as the Bengals have it now first and goal at the Vegas 10. The Commanders get a touchdown right before the half, the second one of the day for Terry McLaurin coming from Jaden Daniels, of course. They're up 21-7 on the New York Giants. The Giants getting their lone touchdown from former Jaguar Chris Manhertz on a 2-yard reception. The Cowboys without Ezekiel Elliott today, left behind for disciplinary reasons, although Rico Dowdle has performed pretty well in his absence today. Dowdle has a touchdown catch from Dak Prescott. Drake London and Darnell Mooney have touchdown receptions for the Falcons as they're up 14-10 in the waning seconds of the first half. And the only other game in progress, AFC South's basement dweller Tennessee has a 7-3 lead over New England. Of course, New England, one of the two teams the Jags have managed to defeat so far this year. Nick Van Etten with the reception on a Mason Rudolph aerial for the only touchdown in that contest. Elsewhere, the Steelers have the week off, but they are said to be looking to add a wide receiver before this week's trade deadline. A report by ESPN's Adam Schefter indicated Pittsburgh was close to finalizing a deal with the Jags for wide receiver Christian Kirk before Kirk fractured his collarbone last week. Teams have until 4 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday if they want to get a deal done. And finally, the Kansas City Chiefs, the last remaining undefeated team in the NFL at 7-0. They've done most of it without starting running back Isaiah Pacheco, who broke his leg in week 2. Pacheco, though, said to be targeting a late November return to action. Kansas City has turned to Kareem Hunt in his absence, and he'll look to help the Chiefs get to 8-0 when they host the Tampa Bay Bucks on Monday Night Football.
There you have it. A look around the National Football League. Week 9 busy already in the early window. Andrew Catalon will have the call of the Jaguars-Eagles game on CBS. Of course, does NCAA basketball for CBS as well, and the Masters on CBS and the PGA Tour. We caught up this week, and there's lots happening around the Jaguars. The injury bug has bit. There's been a trade. There's a lot going on for a team that's 2-6 and trying to find their way. But there was a near win last week against Green Bay.
A lot happening, and I thought they played, obviously you'll point to the mistakes that occurred, but they played a pretty good game against Green Bay on Sunday. I know that Malik Willis was the quarterback and not Jordan Love for most of the second half, but I thought there was a lot of encouraging signs compared to the last time I got ready to call a Jaguars game, which was week 4 in Houston. So still not there, obviously, but we saw what happened a couple of years ago when they were 2-6. I think Trevor is playing better football now. I know I'm wearing the rose-colored glasses, but that's the way I'm looking at Jacksonville as I get set for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 giveaways last week in his own end, the interception and then a fumble you can't have, but then rallied the team. So, and got him down the field without 3 starting receivers out there. That's tough to do. You got 2 tight ends in the game. That's all you're left with. So you got to give the quarterback credit. No doubt. I think Brenton Strange had a really nice second half. 4 of his 5 catches were after halftime when they needed him because of the injuries. Evan Ingram, I think, is still a really good tight end in this league. And I give the coaching staff credit for adjusting without the receivers. We had to see them in double tight end a lot in that second half during the comeback. So, some positive signs, but still not where any of the Jaguars fans thought they would be after 8 games this year. Andrew, there's another trade that's happened, of course, this week. Cam Robinson is gone to Minnesota. He'll be back next week, by the way, to face off against the Jags. That'll be an interesting conversation. Roy Robertson-Harris was traded earlier this year. A couple of vets with bigger contracts. It's kind of that time. They're not out of it mathematically, but they're giving Walker Little a shot at left tackle the rest of the season. It's the final year of his rookie deal. So that's kind of where they are on the offensive line right now, too. Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity for Walker and for the organization to figure out if this is a guy that we want to
bring back and make our left tackle of the future. So in some ways, I understand the trade. I feel like, these days, the last few years, more and more trades compared to 10, 15 years ago. So I find that interesting, becoming more of the norm in the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of activity before the trading deadline next week.
All right. Final thought about this Jags offense, at least. Some young guys really playing well. Tank Bigsby stepped in, and with Travis Etienne Jr. dinged up a little bit, he's really performed well over the last month. And then Brian Thomas Jr. showing off. He had a chest injury last week. We'll see his status moving ahead. But to have those young guys stepping up and playing big, that's a bright spot in an otherwise dull start to the season.
Big time, big time. I'm really hoping that Thomas plays because I'd like to talk to him in our production meeting. I'd like to get a sense of this young man because I've been really impressed with the way that he has played. And Tank Bigsby certainly has, I think that you see it a lot, at JP, that when you have a year under your belt, it's almost like you're a whole new player in that second season. So I feel like he's made that really nice leap this year. And there's some bright points. I think if they put it all together, it's a pretty good team. Now, obviously, Kirk is no longer there, and I think that's going to be a huge loss. But you're right. The younger players have stepped up in some nice spots here for them this season.
All right, Andrew Catalon, CBS Sports with us. Jaguars defense will have their hands full. They've had their hands full most weeks this season. Let's be honest with you. They've struggled up front in a lot of areas. Rushing the passer hasn't been great. Linebackers are on and off the field. Aluakin's been out a lot. The secondary has issues in pass coverage. That's a long list of things. And they're going up against an Eagles team that can pound you, and they've got Saquon Barkley, who's second in the league in rushing yards, two-time Pro Bowler. He's fit right in Philly. I mean, I guess he could fit right in anywhere, right?
Yeah, no, he's special. He's a really good player. Called some of his games with the Giants over the years. Interestingly, for me, JP, is that my first game as a full-time CBS announcer was week 1 of 2014 when the Jaguars were at the Eagles. Alan Hearns burst on the scene. They had a nice lead in that game and let it slip away. Eagles on CBS, not a team that I see very often, is my point. And watching their film against Cincinnati last week, the first half they kind of moseyed around, but then the way their offense looked in the second half really impressed me. I mean, they whether it's Barkley on the ground or Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, you got to worry about Jalen Hurts running. There's a lot of different ways they can beat you. So, yes, the Jaguars defense will have their hands full with a very hot Eagles team that has won 3 straight coming off their bye.
What's the key to stopping this Eagles push play?
I think that nobody can figure it out. It's amazing. Now we have to decide if we want to call it the tush push or the brotherly shove. That'll have to be something we spend a lot of time with analyzing this week. But if you're a Jaguars fan, you don't want to hear it at all because I think they're around an 82% success rate when they run that play. Jalen Hurts had 2 of his 3 rushing touchdowns against the Bengals on that play. I don't know. I mean, it's something that no one has really been able to figure out, and certainly I'm not going to be able to help the Jags do it either.
Andrew Catalon with us. AFC South, give us an idea of the rest of the division right now. We know what the Texans are, their record. Hey, there's questions in Indy right now at quarterback. There's a lot going on in this division.
Wild. So I had the Titans. I've had the AFC South the last few weeks. I had the Titans in Buffalo, without Levis, Mason Rudolph. There's a lot going on there. Obviously, they trade DeAndre Hopkins. They only had 2 running backs going into that game. They're feeling their way through. And then last week, I'd had the Colts-Texans game in Houston. And, we met with Shane Steichen on Saturday night. We told this on the air. We said, hey, when Flacco played those 2 games, he looked pretty good. And he's like, yeah, I get it, but Richardson is our quarterback of the future, and he's got to play. Well, here we are, and that's how quickly it changes in the NFL. A few days, he pulled himself out of the game. What role that had into it, I don't know, but the Colts are in flux. But here's the thing. They're going to probably be pretty good with Joe Flacco. I mean, this could change their season in a positive way. As you know, obviously the Richardson part of it and how that plays out in the future, that is a great question. But in the short term, this could be a pretty good team with Flacco running the quarterback. And now Houston, Nico Collins still out, but almost back, but no Diggs. Their offensive line has not performed well. So that, they're 6-2, but they're not, to me, the juggernaut that I thought they were maybe a month ago.
That is Andrew Catalon of CBS Sports with a call today. The full conversation on the official Jaguars podcast network and Jaguars YouTube. Up next, a pregame huddle up with Bucky Brooks and John Oehser joining us from Philadelphia. The inactives are due in about 6 minutes as well. We'll get those to you when they come down ahead of the Jaguars and the Eagles. A 4:05 kickoff time. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Imagine beautiful new windows and doors that elevate your space and keep you comfortable year-round. At Renewal by Andersen, we specialize in custom-built, energy-efficient windows and doors that are crafted to last. Right now, for a limited time, save 20% off your entire project. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com to schedule your free in-home consultation today. Restrictions apply. License number CGC 1527613.
UNF is a top public university committed to serving the region, a place where visionary minds come together to create effective solutions. With more than 70% of their graduates working in the area, UNF is North Florida's university, offering 100-plus majors, affordable tuition, and programs in high-demand fields. Soar into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
The Jaguars bring performance, strength, and passion to every play. And you'll find the same when you bank with EverBank. Open an EverBank Performance Savings account and score serious savings. See what you could earn at everbank.com/Jaguars. EverBank, Advantage You. Member FDIC and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's not about how you start the job. It's about finishing what you start. The Ford F-150 truck can help. Get the freedom to choose between available gas, PowerBoost Hybrid, or all-electric powertrains, all delivering the power, capability, and efficiency needed to get the job done right. Just another reason why Ford F-Series is the best-selling truck in America 47 straight years. Ford F-150, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is Coke Zero Sugar. Could I be the best Coke ever? Try and taste with your ears. Hear those bubbles? Imagine them tingling on your tongue. Fizzy deliciousness. Listen to that cascading liquid. A mouth-watering waterfall. Irresistibly tasty. Zero sugar. Crisp, refreshing, and ice cold. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Try and decide.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Jaguars and the Eagles coming up in Week 9 at Lincoln Financial Field. Kickoff time set for 4:05 p.m. The inactives a couple minutes away from officially coming down. We'll get those to you when they come down from the PR departments of each team. And let's go now to Philadelphia. And we welcome in Bucky Brooks and John Oehser for a pregame huddle up. The city of brotherly love. The Jags and the Eagles should be a physical matchup in the trenches. Bucky, that's how Philly likes to play their football, I guess, right? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, JP, but you're right. Philadelphia is certainly going to be a welcoming host.
They can't wait for the Jaguars to come in. I kind of feel like we're the homecoming opponent with Shady McCoy going in the Ring of Honor. And so we got to be ready because this will be a very physical affair from opening snap to final whistle.
Well, I think if the Jaguars are going to have a chance, it has to be physical in the trenches. I think the Eagles want to play that way, and my question, frankly, is can the Jaguars match up there? I think that's what makes this JP, you and I have talked about it all week. I probably feel less good about this matchup for the Jaguars than I have any game going in this season because of that. They haven't really been great when they have had to be physical with teams, and the Eagles, I say it all the time, I like teams that know exactly how they want to play, and the Eagles know what they want to do, and they're going to try to do it to the Jags today.
All right, guys, so let's talk about Trevor Lawrence here for a minute. Over the last month, I think he's done a lot of good stuff, some not so good stuff as well. Just where is he based on what your expectations as to where he'd be midway through the season, and what can he get done today against this Eagles secondary?
Look, I mean, I still think, like, obviously you want him to play at a higher level. You would like to see him consistently play at a top 5, top 10 level. I would say he's been up and down. Some of that has been on him. Some of that has been the people around him. Today he's going to have to be his best game. For the Jaguars to win, he's going to have to play like a Pro Bowl caliber, all-pro caliber quarterback because he's going to be shorthanded on the perimeter. He will have some of the pieces in the running game, but he is going to have to elevate those around him. Parker Washington, Tim Jones, whoever else is out there at wide receiver. He's going to have a lot of work to do, and he's going to have to do it against a defense that is getting better and better each week, and Vic Fangio will make it difficult for him.
Yeah, I feel better about Trevor than I have at any point in his career. I think I talked to both of you guys this week about it. I know he had the turnovers last week, but the response to that, when you package it with playing pretty well, improving his accuracy over the last 4 games, I know the turnovers have to stop, but I thought he lifted the team late in the game last week, and I'm not sure he's done that before to that level since he's been here. That being said, I think today, and this is going to sound a little strange because the Eagles haven't created a lot of turnovers this year, but to me it feels like this is going to be his toughest test with not turning the ball over because I anticipate the Eagles playing how they want to play. I anticipate the Eagles having a lead. And when this thing gets dark and cold at 5:30 going into the third quarter, Bucky, I anticipate the Jaguars facing some 3rd and 10s. And Vic Fangio's defense usually don't go the whole season without creating turnovers.
Yeah, he's going to have to make some plays. I mean, the bottom line is, and I would say this is the area that he has to improve on. The guy to have it moments, he has to make more plays. 3rd and long, in the red zone, game on the line. Number 16 has to deliver. That's the expectation from a franchise quarterback.
All right, guys, the inactives have come down for both teams. We'll start with the Jaguars quickly. Gabe Davis will not go today with a shoulder issue. Javon Foster, of course, on the offensive line. Ezra Cleveland will not go on the offensive line, so Cooper Hodges will play at left guard. Asezio Tomewo is down, defensive tackle, and rookie defensive tackle Mason Smith, the inactive players for today. Austin Trammell, wide receiver. Elijah Cooks, wide receiver, both elevated from the practice squad. Andrew Wingard and Keelan Robinson both ruled out before this weekend. So there you have it, the inactives for the Jaguars. How about the Eagles?
For Philadelphia, a couple of starters out. We knew Dallas Goedert wouldn't be suiting up today, nor will Darius Slay. Their cornerback, 4 others, including backup quarterback Tanner McKee, safety Tristan McCullum, offensive lineman Darian Kennard, and guard Trevor Keegan not suiting up for Philly.
All right, those are the inactives. Cooper Hodges, left guard, making his starting debut against the Philly defensive line, Bucky. That's about as tough as it gets.
Look, man, it's tough when you're dealing with them up front. They are talented. They have size. They have athleticism. They have a deep rotation. And so you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's. And for Cooper Hodges making his first start, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he responds. But the response of late from the young guys has been, look, better than you would expect for young guys making initial starts and those things. And so maybe he's the next young player that kind of surprises us when he gets his opportunity.
Yeah, at some point this was going to happen. Cooper Hodges was going to play. I think everybody around knows they see him as a future starter. The future is now. I think it would have been more comfortable against somebody else, JP.
Yeah.
Because the strength of this team, the strength of the Eagles' defense is absolutely the interior. So, Cooper Hodges has a chance to open up some eyes, and it's a lot of pressure, but they think he's capable of handling.
So, guys, the Jags with a couple of defensive tackles inactive today, and that has not been the best group. You're going to have to worry about Saquon Barkley and company. But is it Barkley or is it A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith that would keep you up longer if you're Ryan Nielsen?
Yes. I mean, they're both scary, right? But I mean, but I think you said it on the Huddle podcast this week, Bucky. Saquon Barkley to me is very unusual. It's not usual. Usually only happens at the running back position, maybe, where a team picks up a potential Hall of Famer in his prime, and he makes plays and he makes what was a good offense great.
He certainly does. And what he does is he takes the pressure off of everybody. Everyone that you mentioned, Jalen Hurts, you talk about the two wide receivers on the outside, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they benefit from Saquon Barkley being in the backfield. And his presence, his ability to make big things happen as a runner and as a receiver, it's a game changer. The quarterback is playing better because Saquon Barkley can dominate the game if he needs to as a runner. So, yeah, he's the one that you have to stop because if you can't stop the run, you have no chance against this team or any team. It has to be Saquon Barkley. All eyes have to be on 26.
Well, that's what makes the receivers so dangerous is, as I said before, the Eagles run when they want to run and throw when they want to throw. And they and they throw deep in good situations for them. They're over their feet in a sense. They know exactly what they want to do. And when they're throwing deep, it's usually because they've established play action. So they're super dangerous. This is, as I've said, to me, the most daunting pregame matchup that I've seen for the Jags this year.
I've got a question for defensive coordinator Bucky Brooks. How do you stop the brotherly shove?
You can. You can. And the reason why you can and the reason why teams can't duplicate it is because, one, you had to talk about a quarterback who squats over 600-plus pounds. He did that he was a power lifter in high school. He squatted 600-plus in college. He's still a super strong dude in the weight room. You don't have someone who is like that. And they've kind of mastered the art of the quarterback sneak. They spend more time on it. They have compliments that go with it. It's just a play that they have taken advantage of, and it's one of the things that makes them very, very difficult to defend.
Yeah, it's one of the contrasts between the organizations. I'm not saying the Jaguars need to tush push, but the fact that the Eagles so consistently feel great about 3rd and short, and the Jaguars over the last year and a half, I'm not breaking news, you've sort of held your breath. Well, 2 or 3 drives the game die in that situation compared to the Eagles maintaining those. That can be everything in this league.
I know how to stop it. Keep them in 3rd and medium and 3rd and long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the only
way
to
it,
stop
right.
it. So, Bucky, you just got to tackle today. You got to tackle when you got the opportunity.
Look, man, it does come down to tackling, but it comes down to playing really good run defense and all that other stuff. It's gap discipline. It's effort to the ball with great pursuit angles, and then it's the tackling part of it. And last week against the Green Bay Packers, the tackling fell all the way off. It was the worst tackling that we've seen in the Ryan Nielsen era. Like, too many tackles missed, and the secondary led to bigger plays and explosive runs. And this is a team that wanted to pride itself in not giving up the explosive plays. The way that you do that is, one, you don't let it get thrown over your head. The second part is you make sure that when people catch the ball, they go down. When they run it in between the tackles, they go down shortly after touching it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting day for the defense because the Eagles will try to wear them down, and they'll try to get them in situations that they're bad at. The Jaguars have to have stamina today defensively. You can't just play this team. If you stop the run for 3 series, and we saw it a couple of years ago, Jaguars were up 14-0. A lot of teams, when they get down 14-0, will stop trying to run. The Eagles will just continue to try to run because they believe they can do it. So it's a stamina game defensively. You got to do it for 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's one of the things you look for in A-level prospects. You want competitive stamina, the ability to compete at a high level for long, sustained periods of time. And one of the things that you have to worry about with the Jaguars, when you've lost the number of games that they lost to this point, do they have the will to continue to fight and compete at a high level? That will be tested today against a very, very good Eagles team.
And, guys, that's the thing that scared me after that game last week. It felt like the Jags left a lot on it. And we'll see if they have more to bring today.
All right. Other than that, it's going to be fine today. I mean, piece of cake.
It can be. But, I mean, that's what you're watching for.
It's true. It's what it is. It's where we are at 2-6. Bucky Brooks, John Ozier. Enjoy the game, guys. Appreciate it.
I mean, have fun.
And check out the weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays at 4 on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars YouTube channel. We're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starting at 3 o'clock. Up next, a fantasy forecast. And Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth in Philly. The Jags and the Eagles coming up at 4:05. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, Nemours Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are Nemours Children's Health.
Today's highlight is brought to you by Toyota. At home or on the road, they're never the underdog. Toyota, let's go places. Lease a new 2024 Toyota RAV4 LE Hybrid for $359 a month for 36 months. Offer valid through November 4th, 2024. Well-qualified lessees with approved credit through Southeast Toyota Finance. $36.58 due at signing. No security deposit with select equipment. $350 disposition fee. Excludes tax, tag, registration, title, and dealer fees. See dealer for details.
The power of a great team starts with the right equipment, specialized skills, and the training to win. That's why ASAP Dental Care and the Jaguars have the home team advantage. At ASAP Dental Care, we follow our playbook to perfection to exceed your expectations. Count on us to be there for you 7 days a week to deliver full-service dental care. Score a winning smile with ASAP Dental Care today.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app. Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center. The Jaguars and the Eagles coming up. Lincoln Financial Field, the site for the 4:05 kickoff time. Originally slated for Sunday Night Football, flexed out. It's on CBS Today television. Let's get a fantasy forecast, Mike Dempsey.
All right, a forecast and an update as well with a lot of games in progress. Josh Allen just threw his first TD of the day to Mac Hollins. The Bills now with a 12-10 lead over the Miami Dolphins. Raheem Mostert 50 on the ground, 32 receiving, leads Miami in both categories so far today. Devon Achane, the lone touchdown for the Fins. Baltimore up 24-10 on the Denver Broncos. Lamar Jackson's thrown for a couple of touchdowns. Derrick Henry has one. Zay Flowers caught both of those touchdown aerials from Lamar Jackson. Bo Nix caught a TD as well from his wide receiver Cortland Sutton on a trick play in that one. 24-10 Ravens. It's 20-3 the Chargers all over the Cleveland Browns. So no week 2 magic for Jameis Winston. Justin Herbert's thrown a couple of scores today, and J.K. Dobbins has a rushing touchdown for the Chargers as well. Not a whole lot going on in the Saints and Panthers. 13-10 there. Xavier Legette does have a TD for Carolina, and Taysom Hill ran one in for the Saints. Chris Olave got hurt early, carted off with a head injury in the concussion protocol. They said he has movement in his extremities, obviously out for the day after one catch for only 13 yards in that one. Joe Burrow has thrown for a couple of TDs for the Cincinnati Bengals. They lead 17-10 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Jaden Daniels continues his outstanding play in his rookie season, 113 passing yards and 2 touchdowns to Terry McLaurin. Austin Eckler has a rushing score for the Commanders. They're up 21-10 over the New York Giants. Chris Manhertz, the former Jaguar, with the lone touchdown for the G-Men. That he is in no one's fantasy lineup this week. Atlanta, Kirk Cousins has thrown touchdowns to 3 different receivers today. They lead the Cowboys 21-10. Rico Dowdle on the receiving end of a touchdown pass from Dak Prescott for the boys. And Tennessee up 7-3 over New England so far today. Nick Vanette has caught a TD from Mason Rudolph in that contest. Otherwise, not much. Coming up at 4 o'clock, Chicago at Arizona. Caleb Williams looking to bounce back from a poor outing versus an Arizona defense that is 26th against the pass. Detroit at Green Bay. Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs both expected to go with a high total of 49 points in that one. Puka Nacua said to be full go for the Rams today. He was questionable coming into today in their matchup with Seattle. DK Metcalf and Noah Fant both ruled out. And tonight, Joe Flacco starts for Indianapolis against Minnesota, and that should be a big boost to the fantasy fortunes of both Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, who generally have not got it going when Anthony Richardson's been under center.
A fantasy forecast and an update. The Jaguars in the 4 o'clock window today, so a lot of action going on around the NFL. We're about 10 minutes away from countdown to kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. And let's head to Philadelphia again at Lincoln Financial Field and welcome in Jags play-by-play announcer Frank Frangie. And, all right, the Jaguars are banged up. We know that, but the schedule goes on and the road goes to Philly today. Frank, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, JP, to you and Mike. And that's exactly right. Look, you're 2-6. If playoff hopes are fleeting, every time you lose one, they're fleeting more. So it's another big game, and it's a big game, JP, against another one of those tough, physical NFC teams. We knew this was this 4-game NFC gauntlet. Played very well last week, but couldn't finish the job, and a big win against a tough, physical Philadelphia team today.
Frank, we saw last year when Christian Kirk went out, the Jags missed him in a lot of capacities, right? Not only his on-field play, but his leadership, one of the trusted vets in this locker room. How much do they miss that aspect of that now that Kirk's done for the year?
Oh, Mike, immensely. I think you're dead on. We really saw last year they were 8-3 on their way to a first possession touchdown against Cincinnati and seemed a lock to go back-to-back and win the division. And then the world changed after he got hurt. No, there was way more to it than that. But that was a big part of it. I think you're right. He's a good teammate. He's respected in that receiver room. He's probably Trevor Lawrence's best friend. So there's a lot of stuff. So what you have to hope, Mike, is that Parker Washington, who's had a great offseason and a great early part of the season when he's gotten to play, the big punt return, of course, he's a good player. You've got to hope he can really step up on the field. But the off-the-field stuff that you mentioned, I don't know how you replace that. Christian's as respected a guy who's been in that locker room in a long, long time, and it's going to hurt not to have him. It really is.
Frank Frangie with us in Philadelphia. Travis Etienne Jr. is available for the game today. So, all right, how do you split the reps at running back?
I think you're going to see them do what they do. I still think Travis Etienne's going to play a lot of football, JP. But Tank Bigsby's their downhill runner. I think we figured that out. I think we also know that this team's at its best when it runs the ball a little bit. That's one thing, JP, I think, with the change from Cam Robinson to Walker Little. I think Walker Little, by most accounts, is the better run blocker of the two. I think they've got to run the ball here a little bit. I don't think you want to get into a track meet here. You know Philadelphia's going to run it. So I think you're going to see both guys. Tank Bigsby's their downhill runner, but it's good. Travis Etienne's a good player, man. He's the first-round draft pick for a reason. He's explosive. He can play in space. He's probably the best receiver they've got to do that. So to your question, I would guess a relatively even split. I don't know if that means the exact same amount of carries, but I would guess a relatively even split between those two backs.
Frank, we'll see Parker Washington out there. We'll see some different guys, a couple of young receivers elevated from the practice squad. But with that, do you think we'll see more two tight end sets that were pretty effective down the stretch last week.
Mike, you almost have to, don't you? I think Brenton Strange is coming along, is a really good inline tight end. I think he's a guy, Jeff Lageman talks about it all the time, that he's a guy that should be out there more than he is, and I kind of agree with Jeff on that. And Evan Ingram's one of the better pass-catching tight ends in the league. So part of that, Mike, is I think by necessity you got to do that. Look, you're not going to have Gabe Davis. You're not going to have Christian Kirk. I don't think you have any choice here but to go two tight ends a lot. But the good thing is I think you can do that. No, I think you're going to see it a lot. I think you need to see it a lot. And you're going to see a lot of Evan Ingram. Look, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram in these last 2-3 years have been – that's where Trevor Lawrence goes when he's in trouble. That's the security blanket. Well, one of those security blankets we just talked about is down. So a bunch of Evan Ingram, and I think you're going to see a bunch of two tight end today.
All right, Frank, defensive matchup today against this Eagles offensive attack. They're physical up front. They've got Saquon Barkley. They've got Jalen Hurts. They've got wide receivers. They've got everything that an offense could want. So where do you begin with Philly on the defensive side?
I would say this, and again, I'm not the football guy here, but I would think, JP, you got to crowd the line a little bit. You got to at least try to make them a little more one-dimensional. Now, Philly loves to run the football. I heard John and Bucky on with you guys, and they're right. They're going to keep running the football no matter what. But you have to – I would think you crowd the box. I would think somehow, some way. I think those linebackers, I'd like to see Foye Oluokun and Ventrell Miller in the game together a lot. I would like to see a tight box, a 6- and 7-man box a bunch, and make them throw the football. I can't imagine that you can win this game, JP, if Philadelphia is running with the ease that they often run with. They've won 3 games in a row. They're a physical football team. We both know that. We all know that. So I think any chance you have is do the best you can to at least stuff that run. I think that's what they do best. I think they're one of the best running teams in the National Football League. They feel that way. If you're going to win the football, they're second in the league in rushing. If you're going to win the game, I think somehow, some way you got to stop that.
Frank, it's always important to get off to a fast start if you can, but particularly when you're playing on the road, under the lights at some point in this football game with a lathered-up crowd like Philadelphia is going to bring to the fore. How important is that first quarter?
Well, Mike, I'll even very important. I'll even add one other element to it. If you're a team that's lost a little confidence. I mean, the Philadelphia team has won 3 games in a row. They're very confident. Look, they're still human beings out here, man. They're still guys that the Jags know they're 2-6, and it hasn't gone the way they wanted it to. And when you're a team that's 2-6, when you're a team that has struggled and it starts out badly, it's hard to get that mojo back, man. No matter how much you want to believe, no matter how hard you're playing, Mike, I think it's hard to get that back. And so for all those reasons you stated, plus the confidence thing, oh, man, you got to start well because it's going to get dark and cold. It's one of those games. You don't want to be down 2 touchdowns when all that happens. The fast start, to your point, is critical today for the Jaguars.
All right, Frank, have a great call, and let's get a win in Philly.
Boy.
How about that?
Well, we could use that, JP. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. Thanks, fellas.
Frank Frangie joining us from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Up next, Jaguars Radio Network coverage. It's countdown to kickoff. We'll have the top stories of the day. We'll have Fred Taylor's take on the game. And, yes, the final word before kickoff with Jaguars head coach Doug Pederson. It's Week 9. The Jaguars and the Eagles coming up. Thanks for listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval!